Welcome to Wisdom Wednesdays, a weekly series on my channels where I talk about kind of bigger picture personal growth, usually tied into horn playing, but sometimes goes off onto tangents. Today I want to talk about big picture, mentorship, small picture. I want to talk about two of the most influential people in my life who have been a great personal growth influence. Again, these are not people I know directly. They're people that are out there in the sphere, especially in today's world where we can have access to the collective knowledge of the human race through computers and technology. And on these social media accounts, we have the ability to listen to lots of great ideas. So there are two people in my experience, in my journey, who have been probably the most influential in forming my bigger picture thoughts on life, on how to move forward, how to grow. And I'd be the first to say that I had a lot of holes in my development. Not to sound arrogant, it's not my intention saying this, but like as a kid, things came pretty easy to me, and that's a blessing in disguise, and it's also a double-edged sword. Meaning, when I look back at my development, one of the biggest things that I recognize that I wish I had gone through is more adversity. I was able to proactively think through things before they happened, and so I didn't make a lot of mistakes. Now, I'm not bragging. I am actually saying that's almost a negative. It's like the more I look back, the more I recognize that I would have benefited from more adversity in my life. And it's harder to tackle adversity when you're an adult. And this is all prefacing to say, as I've gone through adulthood and run into more struggles, more adversities, more things that I've had to overcome and search for answers, I have found two voices that have kind of been the best mentors that I could ask for. And they are a man named John Maxwell and a man named Jordan Peterson. And so the goal of this video is just to kind of share a little bit about how they've influenced me and maybe just recommend them to you. Now, here's the thing. I know this is horn-specific type channel, but I do think there's a phrase I use in music: the music will always change, the skills needed to play the music never change. I think you could expand that out to life. I mean, the circumstances of life will always change. The skills needed to navigate life never change. And those, again, those can be found in religious studies. They can be found in a lot of different things. And again, that's not the purpose of this video, to go into my philosophical or religious beliefs. But it is to introduce that if you are like me, and every now and then you run into adversity, you run into things that feel like you're struggling, and you're looking for answers, I feel very strongly that either of these voices, depending on your personality, could be very helpful. I'm going to start with John Maxwell. I'm going to put this little book up here. I call this my personal growth Bible. It's a John Maxwell book called The Complete 101 Collection, and it's basically 8 short books in one. It's very easy to read. And actually, let me make sure I read this here. So it has, these are the books in there: Attitude 101, Self-Improvement 101, Leadership 101, Relationships 101, Success 101, Teamwork 101, Equipping 101, Mentoring 101. So there are these short books that are usually somewhere around 80 to 90 pages, and they're usually pretty small. So it's like you could probably read each of them in a day if you were motivated, but it doesn't take very long. The reason I'm sharing this is it planted so many seeds in my brain and in my life, and connected so many dots about what success is and what we should strive to do and how we should strive to do it. And I would credit John Maxwell more than any other voice out there as someone who kind of showed me that you can start over at any time. You can cast a vision at any time. You can improve. You have to have a vision. And he breaks things down into very simple words, simple terms, but they're very profound, very deep. So it's, anyway, I'm saying all this because, again, it's like we have so much information at our fingertips. It's hard to know where to start, especially if we're struggling. And my observation as a teacher, my observation as a father, my observation as just a person who's very reflective and introspective is that we have more options than we've ever had, and yet I feel as if more people are struggling than ever before. And I think we're looking for answers. And I know I am, and that's why I'm sharing this. I mean, even just doing these channels, it's like some of the motivation behind it is the fact that seeds have been planted through books I've read, through podcasts I've listened to, through videos visions that I've cast, and a willingness to put myself out there. And that's actually one of my biggest fears. I don't like putting myself out there. It's one of the reasons I know that like my playing career stalled, is because I was more afraid of criticism than I was of following through on my passion. With that said, another person, Jordan Peterson, has probably been the biggest influence in my life for the last 8-9 years, and it's because his voice of analyzing, deducing, making patterns of reality clear is first to none. For me, the way my brain is wired, I feel like of course, I forgot that I had a timer on. It'll be on there. His voice, more than any other out there in the sphere, seems to just cut through and have clarity. Now, he's very intellectual, very, very wise, very well spoken. So for some people, he might be, I don't know, I don't want to say elitist, but like I just find his voice to be very profound. One of the things I'm very say often is I'm searching for patterns of reality, things that I can look at and how they work in the world, and things I can grapple onto. And I would say that's the religious enterprise. I would say that that's personal growth and all the struggles we go through. We're looking for answers to help us navigate this world. So, kind of wrapping this up. I have 3 of his books. I have his Beyond Order. I have his 12 Rules for Life. I also have his We Who Wrestle with God book. I have read all of them. It's been a while. I probably should reread them here soon just to kind of re-inspire myself. But all that being said, if you're like me and you're, struggling for answers, or you're, I don't know what the right way to say it is, but if you're just feeling like something's missing, obviously I would highly recommend exploring that. And I also think that when we grow as people, we learn to handle more adversity in life. And as I said earlier in this video, that has been one of my biggest weaknesses. I've always feared criticism, and it takes me a lot of time, energy, effort, and clarity to start moving forward. And that's something I just want to improve on, and I'm sharing that for that. I know there are people out there that have the same struggles, that have the same questions, that are looking for answers. And so if you get inspired by this video and you want to go down the rabbit hole, I would highly, highly recommend doing a deep dive with either John Maxwell or Jordan Peterson. So mentorship is really kind of the theme of this, but those are 2 of the most important mentors in my life at the moment. So see you in the next video. Happy practicing. Thank you kindly.